This Trinidad and Tobago is the lovely lady in question. Yes, this is the director of the three companies that works for Joshua, Alexander, Philip, oh gosh, this is so confusing. Yo, but nevertheless, she's a director. Yes, this is a Barrackpore native. I find all of them resemble from Barrackpore, boy. And that's not being racist. That's just being interesting. You're sexy, you look a certain kind of way, you know. You can tell people in the public, I fuck half of the police station, that's why I control them. So this is very interesting. This young lady is holding a position in the PCA. Also having this company, as in three companies, being the director of. And now, let me explain to you how dangerous Philip and Joshua Alexander is.
And so like everybody else in Trinidad, I read that article in the Express about a man who came to offer a bribe to a journalist to kill a story. And I thought, this is the strangest thing I'm ever reading in my life. This guy, Mark Massan, is some big journalist. You try to tell me a man offered you a bribe twice. I read the article. You say you offered the bribe twice. And you ain't set him up first thing? You ain't said that man up first thing? He bribed you to kill a story? That means the story you have dead to rights. Why that story is not the story? Why the man who bribing you, why his name is not the story? You give us a story based on smoke to put the HTC in dispute to attack the government. That's what I see that as. Because as of now, that was a nothing story. It reminded me of when we were in government, when the People's Partnership was in government. I was on 91.1 and Fitzgerald Hines had called into the show on the phone and I took the call on air. And Fitzgerald Hines said, while he was at a dinner, he spoke to a man who said that while he was crossing a road, he saw a guy who told him that he knew somebody who told him that somebody else said Keith Rowley was too black to be Prime Minister. I say, you call us to give us a story fifth hand? That is PNM trying to attempt to damage the narrative. That is foolish talk. And I'm telling Trinidad and Tobago, today, I am calling on Mark Massan and the Express. If you have a story, publish it. If you have facts, take it to the police. But stop trying to make a mess for this government, because that is unacceptable.
Here at Trinidad and Tobago, we have the experience of the young lady in question. So, she's a Judicial Research Council, Level 1, in the Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago, full-time judiciary staff member. This is from October 2023 to present day. 2 years, 7 months, October 2023 to present. Police, as in Police Complaints Authority. She's Legal Counsel 1. Then that was full-time from since February 22nd to October 2023. 1 year, 9 months. Yeah. Legal intern for the Police Complaints Authority, same organization, from November 2020 to February 2022. 1 year, 4 months. Coming as of November 2020 to February 2022. Now, in the Trinidad and Tobago Law Clinic, Justitia Omnibus Chambers, Israel Khan, very, very suspect individual who hates a certain ethnicity. We're going down that road now, yes. Senior Counsel Justitia Omnibus Chambers of Israel Khan, from since 2019, December. October 2019 to be exact, December 2019. This is very interesting and disturbing because we have a known racist, a public known racist, who came at myself and others on social media, and when he was put in his place, he was dreadfully silent. She was a legal intern for him. Then she represented, prior to that, Leslie F. Haynes, Queen's Counsel in Law Chambers of Mr. Haynes. That was an internship also. Seems that she had a very fun of interesting high profile stuff going on for a long time. As of June 2016 to August 2019, Barbados, she said, this is very interesting. Very, very interesting. The University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus. Bachelors of Law. Yes, Bachelors of Law from since 2015 to 2018, 2025 to 20. It's confusing me and perplexing in so many ways. There are layers to this corruption of this young lady who started off seeming as an above board and average individual. And yes, the time frames I was trying to refer to just now is 2015 to 2018 in the Hugh Wooding Law School. Highly disturbing. I hope you all realize how in-depth this racialism, corruption, and point of origin to just gain profits is. Yo. Also, the key insights, registry linkage. The company is listed under the Business and Professional Services category in Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Yes, and I have the link, and I can forward it to you guys. Please observe. Disturbing to say the least. Miss Carissa, BMW driver.
So Trinidad and Tobago, I want you guys to definitely take a look at these three companies. Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants Limited. Also, Mott Supply Chains Solutions. Also, Zazu Corporate Solution and Business. There's a reason I'm telling you this. Now we'll get into the details. Highlighting this for you, Trinidad and Tobago Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants Trinidad and Tobago Limited. Look at the registration date, which is of course. Just want you to observe. Also look what names you see as directors of the company. And of course I have to say the date is the 26th of March 2026. Likewise, the previous page, Trinidad and Tobago. Look at Mott Supply Chain Solutions and Strategy Advisors Trinidad Limited. Look at the date of registration, which is the 6th of February 2026. And of course, once again, look at the directors posted. Ms. Jagnanan and Mr. Alexander, as in Joshua Alexander, the chief and the attorney at law who works at the Police Complaints Authority under Mr. David West. And lastly, we have Zazu Corporate. No, I'm not referring to the Japanese animation cartoon Demon. I'm referring to a company registered under a demon, Joshua Alexander. And another person who is the director in that company, Miss Jagnana. What's interesting, look at which part she lives. And it's interesting for one reason. Don't you find Barack Boys very interestingly in the news for a long time? Also, somebody who claimed to be a crime fighter was in denial of certain things that transpired with a second robbery that occurred there while his brother-in-law is running that police station. But let's get back to this point. Look at the date of registration of this company, which is the 19th of March 2026. So remember I highlighted something to you with these three company names a few seconds ago? What's very interesting, and we need to definitely read out all of the above. Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants, TT Limited. Address being number 28 Agra Street, St. James, Port of Spain. Incorporated on, look at the date, very important, very, very important. The 26/03/2026. Yes, we're talking about March. Now, what's very important, and it should take reference of, we have a very interesting person who is the middleman in this business, representing for who? Right, very important is her role. So let's read this out loud. Carissa Jagnanan is an attorney at law in Trinidad and Tobago who currently serves as a legal counsel. 1. At the Police Complaints Authority of all places. It's interesting that the dog started barking immediately as I said her name. What's also interesting, the Police Complaints Authority is already in hot water for all of the murders as in extrajudicial killings that transpired in Trinidad and Tobago for the past few months. With that being said, let's continue. She is also listed as a director and incorporator of Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants TT Limited, linking her directly to that company. Professional background of Ms. Carissa Jagnanan. Profession, attorney at law. Current role, legal counsel 1 at the Police Complaints Authority, Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the Law Association status. She registered as a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Law Association in good financial standing. Linked to Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants Limited from Registrar General's Department filing Form 8 dated 26th of March 2026. Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants Limited, company number C202 603 260015. The directors would be a one Joshua Alexander of business address, and he is quoted as the businessman of number 28 Agra Street, St. James, Port of Spain. Carissa Jagnanan, attorney at law, Nanan South Trace, Barrackpore. Very interesting place it will seem. And once again, when I mention her name, it will seem like the dogs were agitated. I don't know if this is a sign, but I'm just doing my normal reporting. Now, her role is listed as both director and incorporator of the company. Key points of interest, dual roles she holds in public legal role at the PCA. I will highlight that again to you. She holds a public legal role at the PCA while serving as a private company director. Company sector Greenline Renewable Energy Consultants Limited is positioned in the renewable energy consultancy space, suggesting involvement in sustainability or energy-related projects. This is very interesting for many reasons, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm giving you a breakdown of this because we just had a report given by Mark Bassant about people involved with the awardance of contracts under the Ministry of Housing. Of course, who is on that purview? Mr. Philip Alexander. Let's continue. Address, her registered address is in Barrackpore, is tied to her directorship filings. Conflict of interest and considerations. Given her role at the PCA, a state oversight body, which is very corrupted because we all know there are several investigations still not transpiring and going on for the purpose of certain individuals, as in minorities, who were killed under extrajudicial killings in Trinidad and Tobago in the past few months, especially under the SOE. Let's continue. Her involvement in the private companies may raise questions of disclosure and compliance. Company status. The company was formally registered in March 2026, making it relatively new. Monitoring its filings and activities will clarify its operational scope. Now, the second company that I told you about prior is this, Mott Supply Chain Solutions and Strategies Advisors, Trinidad and Tobago Limited. The registered address, once again, is number 28 Agra Street, St. James, Port of Spain. Incorporated on, look at the date this time, very interesting, isn't it? The 6th of the 2nd month, 2026. And the status is active. The third and last company that was registered under the name, as in the directors, being Ms. Jagnanan and, of course, Mr. Joshua Alexander, now turned to Mr. Joshua Hossain. Zazu Corporate Solutions and Business Management Consultancy Limited, also with the business address of number 28 Agra Street, St. James, Port of Spain, Trinidad. And look at this date now, incorporated on the 19th of the 3rd month, which is March. And once again, every time I mention her name, the dogs begin barking. In Trinidad and Tobago, a deed poll name change is legally recognized once it is executed and registered with the Registrar General. From that point forward, the person is expected to use their new legal name, in your example, Joshua Hossain, in all official transactions. Using the former name Joshua Philip Alexander after the deed poll can create several legal complications. Legal implications, companies, registry filings when registering a company, Directors and shareholders must use their current legal name. If someone registers under a formal name after a deed poll, filings, as in D-filings, may be considered defective or misleading. The Registrar General could require correction in some serious cases, strike off or invalidate the registration, fraud and misrepresentation. Continuing to transact under a former name may be interpreted as misrepresentation or even fraud, especially if it conceals identity or liabilities. This could expose the individual to civil or criminal liability if creditors, banks, or partners are misled. Contracts and enforcement signed under the old name after the deed poll may be challenged. Courts are generally upholders agreements if identified can be proven. Counterparties could argue lack of clarity or deception. Banking and finance institutions require consistency with the legal name. Using the old name could trigger compliance issues, delays in account opening, or investigations under anti-money laundering rules. Public records and transparency for corporate governance. Transparency is the key. Using a former name undermines the integrity of the company's registry and can raise red flags in due diligence checks. So, Kamala, if you don't fire Philip Alexander with his nasty racist divisive politics, he will make you lose local elections, we promise. No lies were told here in any format. Remember his favorite words is nigger and PNM. Today's episode of Racists in Office, we have Philip Alexander. Ridiculous. I want you to definitely read this. I don't even want to read it, because definitely I would reach to the levels of his intelligence, and that might hurt my feelings, not just other people's emotions. Yeah, but this is who they call a government minister in Trinidad and Tobago.
So this had to be done. This is 6 bullet points that is dealing with the situation of what is occurring with the HDC contracts. And remember that Mr. Lee and Mr. Alexander are both ministers in this ministry right now. And there was plausible denial being shown from both sides, as in the both individuals. I dare not call them ministers, because something is wrong definitely in this situation. So now let me read out these points to you all. Serious questions were already being raised about HDC contracts tied to reported $3.4 billion housing program. So much that the Office of Procurement, OPR, stepped in and directed the HDC to hold on the awarding of contracts pending investigations and a review of the procurement process. Then the Trinidad and Tobago Express reported that a man described as a well-known in political circles, in fact I should say, allegedly visited the offices of the Express and reportedly offered compensation, in other words, money to kill the story, in an apparent attempt to suppress reporting on the matter. It was not the offices actually, it was on the avenue. I could tell you the exact place, but I don't want to hurt the integrity of that establishment. No. Then the Express reported that a man, in fact, sorry, my bad, and let us not ignore that this is a very serious allegation, because once the money allegedly starts being offered to suppress stories involving the public contracts of billions of taxpayer dollars, the public has every right to become alarmed. We have now also seen Minister Lee saying that he doesn't know anything about the matter, but sadly it seems to be becoming a pattern, because every time controversy hits that ministry, the response always appears to be that he knows nothing about what's going on there. 5. And before anybody acts like citizens are reaching, remember one of the ministers attached to the ministry to the ministers attached to that ministry is already facing fraud-related allegations before the court. I don't even have to mention the other two. Also have questions. People questioning the optics and the culture surrounding the ministry is not exactly far-fetched. Bear in mind, we are talking about somebody who is already involved in having stolen $440 million in the previous regime time. Last point, instead of transparency, accountability, and answers. The country is now watching confusion, noise, distraction, and online circus unfolding around matters involving extremely serious allegations.
Political clash tonight over government's housing program as Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Philip Alexander, rejects opposition's calls for a criminal investigation. The minister insists there is no evidence of wrongdoing, and he's defending both the procurement process and the financing of the multi-billion-dollar initiative.
Minister Philip Edward Alexander is doubling down on his defense of the government's housing program, describing the opposition's allegations of corruption as baseless.
The first thing that needs to be debunked here is this mad call for a criminal investigation. Any 2x4 lawyer walking out of law school today will tell you we need an actual crime to take place and evidence of a crime to take to the police to say this is what we want the investigation.
He says the process remains within the law, pointing to procurement rules that allow time for contract review.
Some contracts have been granted through the procurement legislation that requires a stand-down period so that you can investigate all of the contracts to make sure everything is above board. So that's where we're at. Camille Robinson Regis saying that the 10 days of the stand-down is too short is disingenuous because 10 days was standard practice under her.
On the issue of financing, Alexander pushed back against claims the state is funding the program.
The issue of the $3.4 billion, billion, not one of those billions is coming from the Treasury. In fact, not 1 cent. Under this government, the contractors who are awarded contracts are financing the development of the projects.
He adds that private financial institutions, not government, will handle mortgages.
The contractors are, and the government is not financing the mortgages. The mortgage finance companies are, like TTMF and Republic Bank and Royal Bank and First Citizens Bank and GMMB. So all of it is nonsense. All of everything that the PNM and their trolls are saying.
The minister also took aim at the former administration, accusing it of failing to adequately address housing demand.
The PNM fooled people. 215,000 people on a list trying to get houses, and they built 4,700 houses for their friends, family, and financiers to benefit from. Under the PNM, they built houses in excess of $1 million. For who? The purpose of the Housing Development Corporation is to make housing available to people who can't afford $1 million houses.
The opposition has maintained that the public deserves greater clarity on how these contracts are being awarded. Urvashi Tiwari, Rupnarai.
Yo, so with this, what occurred in this video thus far, I definitely have to make a part 2. And it has shown to myself and some other content creators, the truth always comes out. And remember, this year is the year of the Aquarius. As usual, Trinidad and Tobago, I love you guys. Deuces.